$84 per ounce. That astronomical figure represents where white metal peaked this morning before collapsing 5% within hours. The financial establishment won't tell you the truth behind this movement. This wasn't random market behavior. This wasn't institutional profit harvesting. You witnessed the opening salvo of the greatest metal scarcity crisis in recorded history. 72 hours remain until Beijing deploys restrictions that will choke off 60 to 70% of planetary silver processing. Not diminished, strangled. Fresh regulatory frameworks activate January 1st, 2026, instantly crippling hundreds of independent refiners and distributors. During your holiday celebrations, Elon Musk published a four-word warning: "This is not good." His assessment proves devastatingly accurate. White metal transcends mere ornamentation or numismatic collecting. It constitutes the technological backbone of every electronic device in your possession. Photovoltaic arrays, battery-powered vehicles, computer chips, machine learning server facilities, cellular phones, electrical grids themselves. Within 72 hours, Beijing locks the storehouse. I'll reveal the precise mechanics unfolding and demonstrate how this mirrors historical patterns that have repeated with catastrophic precision, plus the specific actions you must take before New Year's Day. Once these controls activate, the opportunity vanishes, and most observers won't comprehend the transformation until far too late. Here's Beijing's exact maneuver. October 29, 2025, China's Commerce Ministry quietly published new export restrictions on white metal effective January 1, 2026. These regulations mandate government licensing for all silver shipments abroad. The qualification requirements present an insurmountable barrier. Companies need annual output capacity exceeding 80 metric tons of refined silver. Additionally, they require credit lines surpassing $30 million. Comprehend the implications. Hundreds of smaller and medium-scale operations that have supplied international markets for decades face immediate exclusion. Only large, state-sanctioned enterprises retain export authorization. This transcends tariffs or quotas. This represents a licensing structure that weaponizes 60 to 70% of worldwide silver availability. The timing proves deliberate. Beijing dominates every tier of the silver marketplace. They control planetary extraction oversight. They process approximately 70% of global refining operations. They consume over half of worldwide industrial silver requirements. When Beijing constrains silver exports, they're not protecting domestic reserves. They're establishing control over every earth-based industry dependent on this element. This replicates Beijing's rare earth strategy precisely. 2010 witnessed export limitations. Prices exploded 300 to 800%. Western technology manufacturers faced complete paralysis. Alternative supply development required over a decade to commence. Beijing maintains dominance today. Identical methodology, different element, amplified stakes. Unlike rare earth materials, which remain obscure to most people, silver touches everything. It provides the periodic table's optimal electrical conductivity. Photovoltaic systems cannot function without it. Machine learning hardware demands it. Battery vehicle production halts without adequate supplies. 3 days until Beijing tightens the noose. You might reason, Beijing restricts exports, will source elsewhere. This thinking guarantees destruction. Global silver markets have experienced structural deficits for 5 consecutive years. Not 12 months, not 24, 5 straight years where consumption exceeded production. The cumulative shortage staggers comprehension. 820 million ounces. That quantity represents consumption beyond production since 2021. For perspective, that equals 1 complete year of planetary mine output vanished, consumed, depleted. Current statistics reveal the magnitude. 2025 global silver requirements, 1.24 billion ounces. Global availability including extraction and recycling, 1.01 billion ounces. Annual deficit, 230 million ounces. Conditions deteriorate continuously. Mine production remained flat for a decade. 813 million ounces in 2025, virtually identical to 2016 levels. Mining output peaked in 2016 at 900 million ounces, declining 1.4% yearly since. The structural problem remains unaddressed. 72% of silver emerges as copper, zinc, and lead extraction byproducts. Silver isn't primarily mined for silver itself. It's secondary output, meaning elevated silver prices don't automatically stimulate increased production like other commodities. Copper price declines reduce copper operations, decreasing silver output regardless of silver valuations. Supply remains inelastic, unable to respond quickly to demand signals. Meanwhile, requirements explode universally. Solar photovoltaics consumed 261 million ounces in 2025, up 5.5% annually. By 2030, solar installations could require 250 million ounces yearly as capacity approaches 500 gigawatts. Battery vehicles consume 90 million ounces annually. Individual EVs utilize 25 to 50 grams, double traditional vehicle requirements. By 2027, EVs will surpass combustion engines as primary automotive silver demand sources. Machine learning data centers represent massive emerging requirements. Global computing power increased 53-fold since 2000, from under 1 gigawatt to nearly 50 today. Every server processor connection demands silver. The Silver Institute projects industrial fabrication, surpassing 700 million ounces in 2025 for the first time. Record requirements, stagnant availability, 5 years of shortages, and Beijing seals access. Observe this critical figure: 27,187 tons. That represents London's vault holdings at November 2025's end. Appears substantial until you examine the trajectory. COVID-era peaks saw London storing 38,000 tons. Today's levels represent nearly 50% depletion from those heights, 4 consecutive years of hemorrhaging metal from storage facilities. October's events should alarm every observer. October 8th witnessed approximately 1,000 tons of silver orders hitting London markets. Nearly 6 months of planetary production in one transaction. Markets seized. Overnight borrowing costs for silver rocketed to 200% annualized rates. Traders paid extraordinary premiums accessing metal for 24 hours. London Bullion Market Association emergency imported 54 million ounces from New York, Shanghai, other locations just restoring basic functionality. 54 million ounces monthly, the largest inflow in 9 years minimum. That emergency shipment exposed systemic vulnerability, operations running on fumes. TD Securities Analysis estimated fewer than 4 months remaining until LBMA's free-floating stockpiles face complete depletion at current ETF inflows and industrial consumption rates. COMEX presents no improvement. Total warehouse inventory around 450 million ounces, but minimal registered quantities available for actual delivery. Early December witnessed over 60% of COMEX registered silver claimed for delivery within 4 trading sessions. 60% vanished weekly. Paper-to-physical ratios reveal systemic fragility. Every single deliverable physical ounce faces 356 paper claims. 356 to 1. This isn't marketplace dynamics. This represents structural collapse awaiting catalyst. Shanghai conditions prove worse. Chinese spot and futures markets trade persistent premiums over London and COMEX. Some contracts entered backwardation, buyers paying more for immediate delivery than future contracts. Classic acute physical shortage signature. January 1st, commencing, Chinese pipeline supplying Western markets faces restriction. Arbitrage maintaining price alignment between Shanghai, London, New York will fracture. 2 separate markets emerge: Chinese pricing and global pricing. Beijing retains access to affordable industrial silver while international markets scramble. This becomes predictable because current events aren't unprecedented. They follow patterns repeating with mechanical precision whenever critical commodities become weaponized by dominant suppliers. I term this the 4-phase resource shock. Phase 1. Accumulation. Nations quietly position themselves controlling critical resource supplies. They construct refining infrastructure. They secure extraction rights. They stockpile inventory. They wait. Phase 2. Restriction. Once dominant, they implement export controls, licensing requirements, quotas, strategic limitations, tightening supply without appearing overtly aggressive. 2010. Beijing controlled 97% of rare earth production. Export restrictions followed. Neodymium prices surged from $42 per kilogram to $460. 11-fold increases. Western technology companies faced paralysis. Alternative supply development required over a decade commencing. Beijing maintains dominance currently. 1973, OPEC restricted oil exports, Prices quadrupled from $3 to $12 per barrel. Mile-long gasoline queues formed. Global economy entered recession. Energy security perspectives permanently altered. 2022. Russia invaded Ukraine. Western nations sanctioned Russian energy. European natural gas prices surged tenfold. Entire industries shuttered. Germany's manufacturing base sustained permanent damage. Identical patterns, different commodities, identical phases. Applied to silver, Phase 1 completed. Beijing spent decades constructing the world's largest silver refining infrastructure. They control 70% of processing. They've accumulated strategic reserves while maintaining export flows. Phase 2 occurs now. January 1st, 2026. Export licensing mandatory. Independent exporters blocked. Western market supplies restricted. Phase 3 commencing. Silver reached $84 this morning, up 190% from 52-week lows, up 158% year-to-date. Acceleration increasing, not decreasing. Phase 4 approaching. Whether silver reprices permanently higher isn't questionable. How high and whether you position before or after repricing represents the only uncertainty. Patterns don't lie. Patterns ignore opinions. They execute based on supply, demand, human nature. Currently, all three align for outcomes most refuse believing possible. Objections emerge predictably. Let me address each systematically. Objection 1. Technology reduces silver usage. Yes, manufacturers reduced per unit silver content for decades. Solar cells used 521 milligrams silver in 2009. Today, 111 milligrams, 79% reduction. This argument misses exponential production increases. Global photovoltaic capacity expanded from 40 gigawatts in 2010 to over 2,000 gigawatts in 2024. Total silver consumption increased despite per-unit declines. Similar to claiming automobiles achieve better fuel efficiency while ignoring 10 times more vehicles operating. Total consumption matters, reaching all-time highs. Objection 2. Substitutes exist. Silver possesses the highest electrical conductivity of any element. Most applications lack substitutes without significant performance sacrifices. Copper replaces silver in some applications but with 15 to 20% lower conductivity. Solar panels operating harsh conditions, semiconductors requiring precision, medical devices where reliability determines life or death, silver remains irreplaceable. Substitution becomes economically viable only when silver reaches $2,000, $4,000 per ounce. Industrial analysis indicates we're nowhere near those thresholds. Until then, manufacturers must pay market demands. Objection 3. Mining increases meeting demand. Bringing new silver mines from discovery to production requires 10 to 15 years. Because silver emerges primarily as byproducts, you can't simply open silver-specific mines. You need copper, zinc, or lead deposits containing silver. Mines producing silver in 2030 are already known, permitted under construction. Their insufficient closing current deficits. Silver Institute projects 9 new facilities, adding 44 million ounces over 5 to 10 years. Current annual deficit, 230 million ounces. Mathematics don't support supply solutions. Objection 4. Beijing won't actually restrict exports. Mere posturing. This argument ignores Beijing's decade-long track record. They restricted rare earths. They restricted gallium and germanium. They restricted antimony and tungsten. Every instance where Western analysts claimed posturing proved real restrictions. Licensing frameworks are published. Effective dates are set. Qualifying criteria exclude hundreds of current exporters. This isn't threatening. This is implementation. Objections lack foundation. They always do. Every historical resource shock featured people explaining impossibility until occurrence. The question becomes, what actions do you take with this intelligence? First, understand timing. 72 hours remain before export restrictions activate. Silver won't necessarily spike January 2nd. Markets don't operate that cleanly, but supply dynamics permanently shift in 3 days. Every week post January 1st, tightens constraints. Second, recognize silver's true nature. This isn't speculation. This isn't gambling on price movements. Silver represents insurance against mathematically inevitable supply shocks. Deficits are real. Inventory depletion is real. Demand growth is real. Export restrictions are real. Third, prioritize physical metal. Paper claims outnumber physical ounces 356 to 1. When supply crunches hit, paper claims become worthless IOUs. Physical metal becomes everything. Own silver in controllable forms. Physical coins, bars, allocated storage where specific bars are assigned individually, not pooled with other investors. When COMEX or LBMA face delivery stress, avoid holding claims in queues. Fourth, consider allocation strategies. I'm not providing financial advice, but patterns suggest positioning before phase 3 captures gains. Those waiting until crisis becomes obvious pay crisis premiums. Silver is up 158% year to date. If patterns hold, we're at movement beginnings, not endings. Some analysts project $100 per ounce in 2026. Others see triple-digit pricing as new baselines if supply constraints persist. Silver Institute projects deficits continuing through 2026 minimum. TD Securities warns London vaults could empty within months. Fifth, monitor indicators revealing crisis acceleration. Track LBMA vault data. Holdings below 20,000 tons indicate critical physical stress levels. Watch gold-silver ratios. Currently around 79 to 1. Historical averages are 69 to 1. During supply crunches, ratios compress violently. Drops toward 50 to 1 with current gold levels would place silver above $90. Monitor Shanghai premiums. Chinese domestic prices diverging significantly higher than London, and COMEX signals physical metal flowing into Beijing away from Western markets. Watch delivery delays, ETF sourcing difficulties, mint allocation limits, dealer extended lead times indicate tightening squeezes. Sixth, think beyond silver. This represents opening moves in broader resource warfare. Beijing isn't just restricting silver. They're constructing frameworks for strategic control over critical minerals across the periodic table. Rare earths, gallium, germanium, antimony, tungsten, silver. Every industry dependent on these materials faces exposure. Solar manufacturing, semiconductor production, electric vehicles, defense systems, medical devices. Entire clean energy transitions depend on materials Beijing is systematically restricting. Whoever controls critical minerals controls 21st century economies. That's the game. Most people don't realize they're participating. Historical patterns I've demonstrated have repeated across centuries, continents, commodities. When critical resources become concentrated in single suppliers' hands, and those suppliers restrict access, prices explode every time. The only variable? Preparation time available. Currently, you have 72 hours before Beijing's silver export restrictions activate. You have months, perhaps, before London vaults empty at current rates. You have windows closing in real time. Silver isn't rising due to speculation. It's rising because global consumption exceeds production. Stockpiles are draining. The largest supplier just announced they are sealing access. This morning, silver reached $84. It's retreated, but patterns don't care about daily volatility. Patterns care about supply and demand, and supply just became permanently restricted. 2010, Beijing restricted rare earths. Nobody believed prices could jump from $42 to $460. They did. 1973, nobody believed oil could quadruple within months. It did. 2022, nobody believed European gas prices could surge tenfold. They did. Patterns are screaming currently. Will you listen or join millions looking back saying, I saw it coming and did nothing? Export restrictions activate in 72 hours. Deficits run 5 years. Vaults are draining. Prices are moving. Your next actions are up to you. To understand connections to broader dollar dominance collapse, how Beijing systematically constructs post-Western financial orders, and which assets survive every resource shock in history, subscribe now. The next video reveals blueprints. Countdowns are running. January 1st approaches. Once restrictions hit, windows close permanently.